Spent is a way of something you feel. You're overwhelmed, you're exhausted, you're feeling older than your years. Your energy account is tapped out. You're running on empty. You're getting sick all the time. You have aches and pains. So it's a feeling more than anything else. Many people come in and say they're spent, and that's sort of where the title came about. Well, my basic philosophy is get the body back into rhythm. We evolved as people with the rhythms and cycles of day and night and the seasons, but we've outpaced our biology. In our genes, we still are ancient ancestors. Our genes are very similar, almost identical to our ancient ancestors, but we're living at a pace and a rhythm that are completely foreign to these. And we forget that rhythms are part of every part of our body's functioning, our hormone function. Every body function has a rhythm to it. All our physiological processes have a rhythm to it. And when you're out of sync with these rhythms, then it feels like you're swimming upstream, you're swimming against the tide, you feel spent. We get out of rhythm because of our modern lifestyle. We're indoors most of the day under artificial light. We don't get enough natural light. Even at night when it should be dark, we have lights blinking. We at computer terminals, we have our telephone blinking. The rooms aren't dark enough, so we're not getting enough natural light during the day. We're not getting enough darkness at night. So the rhythm of day and night is not part of our bodies anymore. We don't, I always say we overfed and undernourished when it comes to food, but the same thing with light. So I think getting outside and getting some light is really important. Apart from the epidemic of vitamin D deficiency we have, I think just getting light and getting the rhythm of nature is important. We don't spend enough time in nature. The way we exercise is really bad for the rhythm. We either exercise too much or we don't exercise at all. If you look at animals in nature, if you look at babies or children, the way they exercise, they'll run, and then they'll stop. That's the way we should be exercising. We shouldn't go onto the treadmill for an hour and just sprint for an hour and feel exhausted afterwards. We need to teach the body to recover. We need to push the body, but then afterward we need to teach the body to recover. There's a rhythm to the way we exercise. Well, probably the most important and the easiest, although hardest thing to look at is what you're eating. Because most of us eat what I call too many takeout foods. Not takeout foods like McDonald's takeouts, takeout foods like sugar, refined foods, processed foods. I even take out gluten and dairy from most people's diets because I see gluten and dairy causing problems with so many people. So there's a group of foods that I tend to take out of people's diets because I've noticed over the years they feel so much better. If we go back to the gene story, our genes being the same as our ancient ancestors are not used to all these crazy chemicals that we're putting into our bodies. So our bodies are not used to this type of food and cannot process it. So I think getting back to eating as close to nature as possible, eating real food, not food substances, is what I'm talking about. Why I'm so excited by the book is because I've taken many ordinary things that have extraordinary healing powers and I've put them in bite-sized pieces so people can absorb them and integrate them into their lives much more easily. The biggest problem I see with patients is they find it difficult to incorporate too many things, especially when you're spent. So the way I structured the program is the way I work with my patients. You've got to work with who's in front of you. Now, you can't tell what reader's in front of you, so I paced it in such a way that most people could take out certain foods and do other things at the same time where it's not overloading them. It's working and the book is structured that you can work at your own pace. It's not putting too much load on someone that they feel pressured by having to do even more than they're doing and feel even more spent. A couple of analogies I use. If you're driving your car and the oil light goes on, you don't put a band-aid over your oil light. You take it to the mechanic and see why the oil light went on. With our bodies, when the oilite goes on, when we have a symptom, we take a drug to suppress the symptom. So you have heartburn, you take Nexium for the heartburn. You have joint pains, you take Advil for the joint pains. You're depressed, you take Prozac for the depression. So you're just suppressing the symptom. So we start thinking of heartburn as a Nexium deficiency. We start thinking of depression as a Prozac deficiency. We start thinking of joint pains as an Advil deficiency. That's not getting to the underlying problem of why you actually have that symptom. The way I practice, whether we call it Chinese medicine, functional medicine, this new medicine is getting to the root causes, treating the underlying imbalance that presents as a symptom. Symptoms to me are pointers to some imbalance going on in the system. So you've got to see where the underlying imbalance is and see why the symptom is coming about rather than suppressing the symptom. The other analogy I use is as a gardener. If you're a gardener and you have a plant growing and the leaves go yellow, you don't just paint the leaves green. You see why the leaves going yellow. Is it getting enough sun? Is it getting enough water? Is something pressing on the roots? Is it getting enough nourishment? These are the things you have to look at. This is exactly what I do as a doctor. The 2 or 3 questions I always ask myself when someone comes in to see me. What do I need to remove from this patient's life to promote healing? Foods that could be a problem, stress, toxic relationships, and at the same time, what needs of this patient are not being met? How do I nourish this patient? Once again, that could be food, that could be love, that could be relationships, that could be sun, that could be supplements. So what do we need to remove to promote healing? How do we nourish that patient to promote healing?